Welcome to this episode of Digital Dialogs with Gururaj Rao and Vinayak Khadye. I'm your host Vinayak Khadye. Before we begin with the podcast, here is a brief introduction of Guru and I. Gururaj Rao is a well-respected professional with more than 2 decades of experience in CXO roles in banking, financial services, and insurance companies in India. I have more than 2 decades of experience in leadership roles in consulting, insurance industry, and also as a founder of a startup in edtech space. In Digital Dialogues podcast series, Gururaj and I go beyond jargons and buzzwords in the digital world and bring to the fore the true meanings of these terms. We discuss models, methodologies, technologies, architectures, case studies, and challenges and issues associated with digital initiatives which can help you as a decision maker. In today's episode, we continue our discussion of the case study on digital transformation of a financial services company in India. So in the context of skill sets, uh, and in the context of the case that we were discussing, okay, what approach did you follow in terms of having those skill sets? Okay, I mean, many organizations have, uh, especially multinational organizations, have back office IT teams. Okay, uh, on the other hand, many organizations tend to outsource. Okay, bring in external consultants, bring in external IT companies, IT services organizations, for such kind of large transformation initiatives. So in your context, how did you deal with the acquisition of skill sets? Okay.
Yeah, it was a combination of all these, as you mentioned. Okay, first thing was to set the organization structure right in IT. Okay, uh, I mean we didn't have specialists to a large extent. So first thing was to set up specialist teams. Okay, whether it was information security, whether it was infrastructure, okay, whether it was with regard to getting in again specific senior people for certain businesses. So I got a CISO from a bank. I got a infra head who had worked in a bank. I got 2 3 senior people whom you also know, to work for various businesses as the IT heads. So this brought in a change in the way we work. This brought in a change with regard to the processes, the IT governance, the controls to be exercised. Of course, there were external partners for various significant projects. The CRM project had a big four partner. The document management and uh, the enterprise service bus had again one of the leading IT organizations, um, perhaps one of the oldest and the largest, not now, but in those days. Then we had again a big four for implementing the complete digital lending solution. So many things you know had to be brought in based on horses for courses kind of a scenario, and also
Okay.
keep the organization well equipped for the for the needs. And we also brought in quite a few application owners, application managers, with new technology skills. Okay. So
Okay.
it was a transformative structure, and a lot of uh, old people um, continue to do their tasks, but considering the grown size of the technology team, it was clear that there were a lot of other newer additions that were done.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Another challenge, especially when you have an ongoing program, okay, and particularly digital transformation initiative is slightly different from the ERP initiatives of the past, where you're just bringing in one solution, which was of course company wide, and hence it took, it had its own challenges. But in the modern times, when we are talking about digital transformation initiatives, essentially you are bringing a multiple sets of platforms and solutions, to the organization. Uh, so what was uh, your approach, okay, in terms of evaluating and selecting those platforms? I mean, how comfortable you were from sourcing it from multiple vendors, multiple technology platforms. So did you try to have some kind of method in this madness?
See, that is one of the biggest challenges for any technology leader. Okay, choosing the right technology to work with, because you can't, frankly speaking, predict the future. What happens to the solutions that you work with? Okay, I mean, does it prove to be more successful? Does it prove to be a failure? Does it um, remain a mainstream solution for some time, and then you keep getting product roadmaps, skills, all those, or you know things fail. That's one of the things to be noticed. When you take calls on that. So, depending upon the type of solution, depending upon um, the ability of the organization, you take calls. For example, when I worked with the large financial services organization, which was stable, which had a good, strong financial situation, I could afford to work with some of the largest players. Okay, that's one. So they gave a I mean, there were products with track record. There were channel partners available, resources available to work on those platforms. So absolutely, safe solutions. But when you're working with cutting edge technologies, when you're working with solutions which are perhaps not critical to the overall stability of the organization, things which are working at the fringe, things which are used by a lesser number of people, etc., then you can work with smaller players, you can work with startups. I do remember we used a startup for some for some um, smaller laptop devices for our field force. Did not work. I mean, we bought over 1,000 odd devices there. Uh, Lasted for about a year or so. Didn't work beyond that. Okay, because of various challenges, technical challenges. Similarly, we worked with a few other players on AI with regard to the audio solutions. Um, could not be very successful, but with a few other players, it did work well. Communication channels, it did work. So I would say that depends upon what is at risk. What is it that you are betting the organization on? Okay, you take the calls accordingly, um, because you can't keep on waiting for the perfect answer. So take calls depending upon what value you get for the organization, what would happen if something goes wrong, and move on.
Very true, very true. I mean, in fact, you briefly touched upon uh, new technologies, and typically any new technology, whether it is brought in by a well-established, big five or big vendors like IBM, Microsoft, or startups. I've experienced both, facing challenges.
Yeah,
We implemented, as part of the uh, BPM and driven transform I mean new business transformation initiative that we referred to during our discussion. We had a choice of choosing a technology, one that was you know more or less sunsetting from the same vendor, and choosing another one which was the newly launched uh, BPM and workflow platform by the vendor. And obviously, because the earlier one was sunsetting, where there was a reference, uh, because it was sunset, I mean, it was going to end. uh, we opted for the new one, and it gave us a lot of teething problems in terms of uh, making that technology work. Okay, even the skill sets from the partner vendor on the new platform, uh, you know, they took time to really learn and implement that solution. So implementation, stretched a little far. It gave us scalability issues, etc., etc. So this was from a large vendor, and similar case that we had experienced, with a startup with a mobility platform that I implemented, with one of the insurance companies that I worked for, and it was again first of its kind initiative in the industry. And we faced a challenge because obviously mobile networks as they are, our business wanted uh, offline capabilities for the app that we were
Mm.
going to give to the distribution team. And synchronization, data syncing was a very essential component of that. Once you captured the customer details offline, you wanted to obviously sync it, and then it gave us a lot of pain points in terms of getting that data synchronized properly, and the subsequent process at the back office. And we had to actually withdraw the application. We had to
Mm.
re-architect the solution, and launch you know the project again after 4 to 6 months. So dealing with sometimes new technologies can be like playing with fire. It can, you know
It is.
if it obviously delivers you well, then yes, everything goes well. But many times you also face challenges, and organizations need to be ready. As one of my bosses always told me, when it came to involving new technologies, and particularly in operations, he used to say that you will operate always find yourself in a hole. You need to have plan B, and you need to not repeat the same mistakes again. So as technology professionals, we need to keep in mind while adopting these new technologies. So
Yeah, but at the
uh,
same time, there
yeah,
are risks of even I mean, working with large existing players. Okay,
yeah,
just for
very true.
example, I think today or yesterday, the CEO of one of the largest banks in India has raised a concern that all the banks do have a problem of working with uh, a small set of IT service providers. Okay, and
Hmm.
that's a risk concentration. So very valid point. I mean, for
Interesting.
example, yeah, I mean, he has raised it.
Yeah.
See, for example, there are only three key core banking solution providers in the country,
Hmm.
right? I mean, uh, it's all public knowledge. So something happens to any of these three, a large
Correct.
banking segment will have a challenge.
Correct.
Okay, so these are risks which need to be addressed. I mean, not that they can be completely mitigated or completely eliminated, but we have to address them in some way or the other.
Yes, another challenge that always organizations face and talk about is IT security. Okay, uh, and especially as the world is becoming more and more digital, everything is going online on cloud service providers, infrastructure, etc. So how uh, was that how big was that a challenge for you, and any thoughts on managing uh, IT security and information security for digital transformation initiatives? I mean, it's a large topic, and I think we should have a
Yeah,
separate topic. We should have a
absolutely.
separate discussion around it. But just since we are talking about transformation programs and challenges around them, so in the context of the business
See, the
case that we
point
are
is simple.
discussing.
Yeah, the more you leverage technology for an organization, the technology risks do exist. Okay, whether they are risks of information security, whether they are risks of uh, you know technology obsolescence or resource availability, or even costs. Okay, all these are risk factors with regard to technology. But doesn't mean we can go back to the cave era, right? I mean, we have to work with technology. So, I mean, slowly but surely, due to the prevalence of uh, technology in the individual space, okay, in the personal life of individuals, people have started realizing the criticality of information security. That is one big thing. Secondly, you know, the the controls, the governance frameworks, the financial standards, the regulations, all of them have started emphasizing on information security, and hence, willingly or unwillingly, right from the top, the focus has started coming onto technology security. For example, financial services organizations, the regulators ask the boards to have at least one member who is well conversant with information technology. So you will see some very senior superannuated CIOs being on the boards of various organizations, okay, or even IT professors and those kind of people. That's the first thing. The second thing is you see financial audits. You see there are specific information security audits. All of them ask for certifications of controls on information technology. Okay. Um, the third aspect is that due to the integration of one organization with other organizations, the standards are becoming more, um, what you call, I mean, cascading. They are more cascading. So if I, as an organization, I am suppose integrated with say four banks, the banks demand that I also follow some standards with regard to information security. I cannot say that sorry, that's your banking issue. I mean, I work in a different industry or a different field. I don't need to adhere to those standards. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so these are good drivers of information security, awareness. And once you are aware of that, then you start taking steps. And frankly, information security is not cheap. It's not
Yeah.
short term. It's not piecemeal. Okay, it is a comprehensive thing. A lot of things need to be put in place. A lot of things have to work. And in spite of that, there will be failures. Okay, so what does an organization do when there is a security failure? When there are problems, uh, data leakage, um, frauds, or financial loss. All these, then what do you do in such a situation? What are your plans for that? All these are important. I mean, today's latest event is with regard to a depository organization having a malware attack on some of its machines. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just giving one recent example. I mean, this happens almost on a daily basis with various organizations in India and globally. But it is a very, very, visible risk, and organizations have to work towards tackling them. It's
Right.
not an
But
easy.
in the context of the case study that we were discussing, of this NBFC, I mean, what I mean, do you want to share any of your experiences in
Yeah, the
that
first
domain, or it
example.
happened? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
or it happened as a parallel track, which was sort of an ongoing track for at the end organization level.
Well, information security in that organization was an integral part of information security function itself. In some organizations, security is considered as part of the risk function. There are no right or wrong answers. It's absolutely fine. In this case, it was an integral part of the IT function. Okay. I mean, this just reminds me of an anecdote that happened when I recruited the CISO and we had a discussion with the CFO for the first time. He brought, I mean, I had asked him to prepare a plan, what all things we require in the organization, because almost, I mean, everything was non existent. I mean, so we needed to put a lot of things in place. So he listed a lot of stuff. I mean, these are the things we need to do and all that. And everything done. Uh, he explained, these are the components, this is the task of that component, and this is how we will be doing it, and this is what will get prevented and all that. So after putting all that, the CFO finally asked the question which anybody would ask: how much will this cost? Okay, and that guy gave a ballpark figure. Okay, and I don't want to assume that figure to be 100. Obviously it was a shocker for the CFO, because it was equal to at that time, I think about 60 or 70% of the IT budget. Okay, 70%, yeah. So I mean, this guy got a shock that, then I had to deliberately ask the CISO, how much time are you going to take to implement all this? Oh, he said, easily these, I mean, if I have to implement all this stuff, then this will go into about 3 years or so. I said, then you're talking about this amount over a period of 3 years, am I right? I said, yeah, and again, I mean, this depends upon the volume, the number of licenses, etc., etc. So then, the thing started getting rationalized. That, okay,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? And I can tell you, each step requires a huge amount of change management. It doesn't happen overnight, and it has to happen even within the IT team. There were large number of applications, servers, which blindly had given access to various people. Okay, I mean, if you go by the segregation of duty, conflict of interest, and all those things, you can't do all that. Okay, so but then people simply used to do stuff. So a lot of things had to be changed. Okay, then you had to get into things like simple user communication, user awareness, password sharing, password change, all that stuff. So there was a lot of change management required, a lot of education required. uh, as I said, even within the IT teams, people had to be, the CISO started taking admin passwords and locking them up physically, because in those days we had those kind of practices. Then there were, the privilege identity and the access management was put in place. So a lot of stuff happened. It takes time to actually bring in these changes. And in spite of all that, after all that, okay, I mean, I should say, I mean, around a few years ago, we did have a ransomware attack on the website. Okay, now see, attacks keep happening, very few are successful. There are attacks and there are repulsions. So your tools actually help in defending against attacks. Attacks are automated, tools are also automated. It just is a fight going on in an automated manner. In this case, our website got compromised, and then we had to go through recovering the site. We had to report to the regulators, all that processes had to happen. So I'm just saying that there is no organization which can be immune to such stuff. You just have to have your processes which take care of the situation when something goes wrong.
Correct.
And I can say that, I mean, this is always a race between the bad guy and the good guy, and it will keep, sometimes somebody will win.
Correct. Mentioning, today we had a fairly good discussion on this, and then we'll meet again to discuss other aspects of, this new digital world, and we'll conclude our discussions here today.